was a military that was in fatigues, you know, just camouflage. And it was the little baby was like maybe 2 years old, 3 years old, but they had another little girl like 17 years old there.
Unbelievable, absolute evil.
I wouldn't lie about it.
No, I know. Stuff like that came out in the media. You told us about all this. Continuing with what else you saw.
Well, at the Dome Stadium, when the sports were going on with Paris, Mr. Jones, the stink was so awful. And they're looking at the guy and said, there's a body there. They had to cover up in a wheelchair. And the police stand there and said, we can't go no closer to this. And they had people, help me, help me, help me. I said, what? She said, oh, they're raping the women up in there. And so I said, go up there and help the woman. And he said, we can't go in there. You ain't going in there neither. Step back.
And let's be clear, you were telling us this at the time, and it later came out on the news. That's why you're such a great source. It's all been very accurate. That they would, for over a week, leave them in there, and the police wouldn't go in and help anybody, and then they would make them sit there and beg for water and food and wouldn't even give them that. And meanwhile, they were running around, the police robbing everything.
Yeah, now I've seen some of that on Canal Street. On Canal Street, they were shopping. They were shopping, actually shopping, Mr. Jones. Actually, I mean shopping. You know, the bears come out with stuff and up there and I'm looking like this, and they said, y'all got to get near the end. I said, well, what about, he said, go ahead. But then I found out they were robbing jewelry stores. When coming back, you know, we a lot of stories coming back home, you know what I mean? They were robbing jewelry stores, and they had an apartment upstairs where they were stacking the merchandise, the loot or whatever, you know? And they did find the apartment. But it's unbelievable. I mean, you couldn't write a book about it. And one little guy asked for water, and Mr. Jones, they said, "You want some water?" And it was on the news 2-3 days later. They put the dog on him. The dog bit him all up in the legs, and all he wanted was a bottle of water.
So it was basically a free-for-all, robbing everybody. Let's go back to the Superdome and more of what you saw. I mean, break down what really happened there.
Well, really, I'm telling you, I couldn't get that close, but I could stand back a ways, you know. I couldn't get past the police, you know what I mean? We would just kind of tie our boats up, and we would just kind of walk. Most of Bourbon Street now was dry, you understand? They were partying and drinking, a lot of people. And the Dome Stadium, that's in the Crescent City, you know, they just surrounded it. You know what I mean? The police surrounded it with dogs and guns on it, and once you got in, you couldn't get out.
Now, break down, from your perspective, we know FEMA cut the communication lines and other things.
Yes,
what do you think the master plan was here?
Well, Harry Lee, now my aunt, she worked for the district attorney. I got a nephew, my wife was ready to tell you, he worked for Harry Lee before Harry Lee died. But they still cut the lines. They didn't want no communication in there coming out. That's why they wouldn't let us bring cell phones or cameras. It was supposed to be a lot worse than it was, you see. And the Ninth Ward, they didn't report this, but they were shooting back at the Ninth Ward, but they wouldn't go. The police wouldn't go in there. They ran the police out a couple of times. They knew what was happening. That
where people fought back, the police went away. So that's why they went to the wealthy, rich areas.
They left. And when the gun confiscation come, I was there for that first day. Men would just tremble, bring their guns out. Their wives would bring their guns out. One woman stood up to them on St. Rock Street and said, "I need this gun. You might as well kill me now. I got 2 children. They're coming out tonight. They're robbing and raping, and I'm not giving this gun up. Just shoot me now." They left her alone. They went down to the next house. It's the truth. She stood up to them, and they left her alone.
Continue.
And so, you know, I was still looking for my aunt. But in St. Bernard Parish, you know, they even heard about the police when his mother was there. Kept saying, "They coming, Ma, they coming, Ma." That was a big story there. And his mother died. You know, it was mass confusion, but they wanted mass confusion. I'm gonna tell you something you won't believe. They actually sent ice trucks back with ice, you know, bringing ice to New Orleans. They actually told them to turn them back. I know that's hard to believe. I have no reason to lie to you.
Well, Charles, it all came out. Why do you think they wanted to make it so bad? So that FEMA could then say, see, we don't have enough power. Give us unlimited power.
They wanted more power and all that, but they wanted to break the spirit of the people not to resist, just to go along, you know. The convicts, they let the cells fill up. Then they kept them in water, for, you know, the ones in Paris prison, made them sit in water for 10, 12 hours. It was just something just to abuse. Any abuse in the world they could do, they did it right then and there.
And this is a microcosm of what to expect in other crises, and other governments act this way as well. They use any crisis as a pretext to grab more power and to beta test what they can do to other areas of the country. Now they admit in Army documents that are public, Charles, I know you listen to the show, so you've heard us cover them, that they plan to cordon and lock down major U.S. cities under a martial law plan. And Katrina was a test to see if we will go to our knees.
Well, we heard they coming back, you know, from the firemen and some police. See, there was police come down from Texas now to help New Orleans policemen, and when they were so cruel and all that, they refused to work with the police in New Orleans. Believe it or not, they said, we're not working with them. They just tearing stuff up, hurting people for nothing. We're going back to Texas.
So the Texas police wouldn't be part of it?
No, there were a few of them. They said, no, we're not going to do this. They just were so abusive, they just left. They didn't want to be report of this. But one old woman, she come out, she had some food in her car. She was walking up the street with a bag of food, and they said, you went to that grocery and got that food. They threw her out, handcuffed her. She was 70 years old, and arrested her. And I don't know where they brought her. And she said, no, I got this in my car. I got food in my car. I got food. And they arrested her. But listen, they were just, everybody was confused. Harry Lee, one thing in Metairie, he kept his people pretty straight. He was safer in Metairie than he was in New Orleans.
Now, let's expand on this now. The reason we recapped with you the horrible memories of what you witnessed, Charles, in New Orleans when you went to help people. Now you're thinking about going back from the town you're in nearby there, Charles. They're saying it's going to hit in the early morning hours.
Same hour, same day of Katrina, just about the same hour. About the same hour.
Amazing. And what are you hearing is on the ground there? You called in on the radio to say that your sources, well, you said it was on television, that they've got troops on the streets, and they're not even saying where you'll go during an emergency.
Well, since I talked to you, I called the governor's office. Called the governor. We know somebody up there. They said, "Oh no, we ain't taking them to unauthorized vacation. There's going to be schools, and they're going to be." They said they're going to have hot food there, and they're going to have people they could talk to. I don't know where they're going to take them at. I said, where are these places? Well, I like to, in case I think, well, we're going to announce it over the air. So I don't know. But if they take them to a FEMA camp, which we got them down here in Louisiana, they say they're very elaborate camps. I don't know. Our governor says this. But anyway, you imagine with nobody looking at you, what's going to happen? With nobody knowing where you at? If it happened right in front of our eyes in the Dome Stadium, this cruelty, what's going to happen if they take you to places that you don't know, nobody knows where you're at? Think about that.
Charles, I'm listening. Charles, any other points?
Well, it's just the idea, if people think if they're going to give their guns up, and you got to tell a man, you got the right to defend yourself. Something's wrong with this society. These people here mean these people no good. And look, Obama, if he sends these troops in here, they'll either just take these women and do whatever they want. It's going to be terrible. You know, people need to start praying, and men need to start being men, and they need to start supporting your show, and they need to start passing some tapes out. And I've said this for many years. Them tapes do it. The tapes do it. I woke up more people with the tapes than anything before. People still today say, thank you for that tape, and I gave them that 3 or 4 years ago.
That's right. There's been newspaper articles about you handing out thousands of copies of my films, and now people can do it digitally, forwarding this show, and they watch it later on YouTube and other channels. People can share their passcode to PrisonPlanet.tv with friends and family. People are hungry for the truth now. Who was worse back during Katrina? Was it the police or was it the gun confiscating military?
I think, the police, they the ones who broke the old woman's jaw. The military, they were just taking guns and putting guns in your face. It was about the same. They was all under the same orders.
Now, Stuart Rhodes identified units that refused to engage in gun confiscation. Did you ever hear anything about troops refusing to be part of this?
No, I have never heard it. Coming back, we got more details than going up there, you know what I mean? Because we had a bus to come back on. The guy had a big party bus, and people that got the guns confiscated, now they would come back after they took the guns. They knew they couldn't stay in a house, so they would just come to Baton Rouge or wherever, would try to get them closer if they wanted to. But once they gave up the guns, it was all over. I mean, people were just walking all over them. They just come in your house and just take what they want.
Yeah, let's be clear. The government, and that came out in the news as well, it's not just you saying it, they wouldn't go in the 9th Ward where there were some pretty serious hombres with guns who would shoot at them and drive them out. They would go find the richest houses they could and loot them, rob them, and steal their guns.
Yeah, St. Charles Street is more, they really took their time going through them houses. They wouldn't be like going to a little beautiful house in St. Charles. They moved in them so fast. They just come in and move so fast, kick your door down, scream at the kids. They had actually reports where children was wetting on themselves. They were so scared, Mr. Jones.
Well, I mean, look, you can't, it's a great excuse. TSA gets to grow up your wife and kids. A bunch of pedophiles, troops and police led by FBI get to come and scream at your kids, take your guns. I mean, this is a real pleasure to do this in America. This is what it's all about.
But let me say this, please, and I don't, you know, I'm a hard man, but I thank you for standing up for this country. I thank God for you many, many nights. Without you, and I'm just saying, this is how I see it. Without you, a lot of people wouldn't still be ignorant. But I'm asking the people, if they come get them guns and they take them from you, what I have seen, my God, you're digging a grave for yourself. Listen, Texas and all, they're going to stand against, a lot of people are going to stand here up against them. I can't let them rape my wife on the floor with some bayonet to my throat, you know what I mean? And I thank you for being who you are. I thank God for you, because there's not many men like you. And I wish that women would start praying for their men to stand up and do a little something. You know, I'm not trying to sell tapes. Buy a tape, give it to your neighbor, sit there with him and explain it. Get a radio, invite your neighbor for coffee, tune in at your program, and sit there and have coffee and talk about this. That's how we will win this thing, through information. But the time is coming now. And I'm telling you, the time is coming now. We're going to be, before the election, I believe Obama's going to really put it on us.
Well, Charles, people that are watching this and listening to this now need to take this video and pay it forward like you just said. No need to even buy the DVDs at INFOWARSshop.com, though that does support our media operation. But I want to be clear. You're the guy that had courage enough to go out there and try to save people. I'm somebody sitting here on the radio and TV, and I do take a risk. I do get demonized. Yeah, but Charles, the greater risk is not resisting these people. So I want it to be clear. The minimum is to speak out. You've actually gone out there and physically done things. And we need to understand there is a battle for the heart and soul of the police and military. The New World Order would have taken over if all our police were like the police you had to witness doing this. The good news is there are a lot of police, but the Texas police shouldn't have just left. They could have citizens arrested the people that they saw doing this type of stuff.
It wasn't only Texas, it was other states too, parts of Louisiana. They just would come in and the police just kicked the doors in, and they said they couldn't they would tear stuff up, didn't need tearing up, talking bad to people, and they said, we can't work under these conditions. And it was on the news, I believe.
No, that was on the news. My point is, that's that struggle, good and evil, right where the rubber meets the road. That's where all of this, basically happens. That's where the fight is. And so everybody out there just